What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again, and we got a lot to get to today. So, quick to let you know, over the weekend, my daughter was in a musical. We were there Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. It pretty much took up the whole weekend, and that's why I didn't get videos out to you. We were out till crazy late, but we had a great time. It was fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was fantastic. It was awesome and loved every minute of it. But back here to do football. So let's go ahead and let's do some XFL news. And then we'll kind of work into kind of my final thoughts for the weekend. I'll give you little tidbits that I got from each one of the games. And we'll kind of move through things with that. So the big hot topics of things going on right now, we definitely have the Luis Perez trade. It makes sense. He doesn't really fit well there. And yeah, they had the big win, the Vipers did, and he had a good game against the Guardians, but you could just tell just how inept he is in that offense when they actually got up against a fairly decent defense in that Battlehawks team. And so it makes sense. The Renegades, they need a quarterback. They need somebody to run that offense. And I think that he probably is one of the better guys to run that offense. And we can kind of talk about that a little bit more when I break down the games, and I can kind of give you a little bit more of my thoughts in that kind of that situation there with it. So looking though, I want to turn our attention right now to the XFL news, the taking stock of everything's going on, a little over halfway through this season. There was an interview that The Rock and that Danny Garcia have done. And there were some things that really stuck out to me with it. Everybody's talking about, putting the information out there. The XFL says they're definitely going to be back for 2024. Nobody thought that they weren't. Everybody that was in the know knew that was planned, that the plan was for that. So there's nothing changed. Nothing's new with that. Talking about the scheduling things, you can kind of get from the comments that they made that they understand the issues that are there with the scheduling. And they also, comparing it to 2020 and how things are different now than what they were back then when the XFL came back in 2020. And you can definitely tell from the comments that they made that they're kind of learning from the way that they've scheduled things, but also you can tell that their hands are tied with the relationship that they have with Disney. Disney wants things done a certain way, and you can tell that with the way that in the comments that they've made about the broadcasting partners. And some of that stuff is kind of what I want to focus on here with this. So you've got Danny Garcia's comments are really the ones that really stood out to me here in this. So when it came to the stuff with the, So the stuff with having to do with the broadcasting partners and this being a different animal than 2020. The comment that she made and that she noted that that distribution is important in talking about the Disney networks that they have. It's one piece of a really elegant puzzle that includes what we are doing digitally, who we're reaching. And so one of the things that I take away from this is the stuff that we've been talking about in this community, that a lot of people are not watching things on traditional media like before, and they're getting a lot of interaction digitally, meaning social media, meaning in other platforms, that people are watching and getting their content on the XFL, not just from the normal network stations. A lot is being put into this ESPN Plus deal, a lot of the streaming service stuff from Disney. This is where they've kind of pointed things, and the comment that she made here is very significant in that. Yes, the numbers aren't what they were with the XFL back in 2020, but it hasn't been billed like that. And she even makes the comment of all of the games that have been on FX and really ESPN2 and not on ABC and ESPN, which are really the flagships of this whole situation here. So as you look at what we have with what's going on, and they said for the second half that's going to shift and it's going to be more on ABC and ESPN than what it was in the first half, which makes sense because they're going to have competition in the second half of the season with the USFL. But it's a very strategic move with Disney of what they're trying to do is they're really trying to build this thing up on the Disney platforms and really focus in on, and it makes sense, right? Focus in on that Disney thing because that's money that Disney gets directly when they have people coming in using the streaming services as opposed to going through and doing the traditional cable services that are there. And the shift has a lot to do with the fact that they have competition in the second half of the season. And I find it funny too, because of course it's coming out now, the information with, asking Rock about the Hollywood comment, the shots fired, so to say. And he's like, yeah, it was kind of funny. It made a chuckle, made us laugh. And they talk about how they're the ones on the front lines. They're not behind the corporate, tags, the corporate, they're not standing in the big buildings. They're out there. They're really trying to put the fans first. And they're really taking a shot at them with their hub cities, with just putting a product out there that really isn't, there with the fans, and that they were kind of in a microcosm, and that the XFL is making the USFL do things. And I agree to a point. But really, I think it really comes down to what Dani Garcia says on this comment. She talks about that, listen, she feels like that there's space for both leagues and that there should be both leagues because they're going to push each other. And this is what I've been saying since day one. It's better to have both of them. They're going to push each other. They're going to be competitive. You always want to have competition in there. The competition is going to make everybody get better. When you have somebody pushing you to get better, you're going to be better. And that's just the facts. That's what happens. And that's kind of what we're seeing here with the XFL and now with the USFL. Literally, we are less than 3 weeks away. I think the 15th is the first games that we're having. And yes, I will be getting into the USFL content as well. But it just really is, cool to see the push that's there and to see what's going on. And I will tell you that they are going to the XFL is going to have to pick things up, because if you look at the schedule, that the USFL, Fox, and NBC, they're coming out swinging and putting that back, very much in prime time. And so to keep up with it, the XFL is going to have to do that as well. So there's kind of the stories that are out right now. Let's do a little bit of a recap, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts over the weekend. I thought that the games over the weekend weren't completely terrible. I thought that they were pretty good. They kept me engaged for the most part. I will say that things weren't completely great, and we're starting to get some separation here to where, having that watchability factor of trying to draw people in with the newness is kind of starting to wear off, and we literally are getting into that mid-season where, some of these games aren't going to be as appealing as others. And one of them is the Seattle and Orlando game. And it was kind of a game, and we thought that maybe, the Guardians might, come in and do something different, but they showed their true colors. They had issues, mistakes, and that's what led to them losing this game. And, the Seattle Dragons, when looking at this game, they weren't really as potent of an offense as what they had been. They didn't have as many yards. Well, a lot of that had to do with the special teams putting them in a really good position, them having short fields. And one of the things with this offense is the offense does really well until they get into plus territory. When they get into the red zone, that's when they stall. So already starting there and then stalling, it was kind of one of those things where this is a high, you heard during the game, this is a high-powered offense. Why aren't they really doing anything? Well, because they're already in that place where they already stall. So you kind of have some of that stuff. But, I will say that down the stretch, Seattle didn't make the mistakes, and the Guardians did, whether it was one thing or another. And at the end, they couldn't keep that pass rush away. That pass rush is starting to look better and better with that Seattle team. I will say, though, Dormady is definitely the quarterback for this team. They just need to figure out a way to stop the bleeding, stop making mistakes. I think if they can do that, this team is going to turn they could, get a couple wins here before the end of the season. Looking at Seattle right now, they're one of the hottest teams, and yeah, it was kind of a struggle for the most part in the game, but they figured out how to do it. DiNucci had his bonehead play that he usually has once or twice a game right before half, where he threw a pass that he should have never thrown, and it was intercepted in the end zone. They could have put some points on the board there real easily before half, but they ended up not, and actually getting themselves down before half. But they righted the ship, and things are still looking decent for them. Moving on to the Battlehawks and the Vipers, and this was just a Battlehawks win from the word go. They got back on track. That offense got back cooking and moving again. They looked really good, looked really special. The Vipers, you could definitely tell that, the win that they got last week was because they were playing an 0-6 team, and that's how they got a win. And they played a good team this week, and it showed. And too, with that trade with Perez, makes sense now. Hundley came in, and yeah, his stats don't look as good, but he had guys that dropped the ball. Their offense was definitely better when he was in there against an actual good defense. So in that game, the Battlehawks, who I thought they were, and so were the Vipers. It was kind of one of those games where it was fun to watch the Battlehawks, but it just it just kind of drug on there towards the end. The Brahmas and the Renegades, that one was, I called it. It was a snooze fest, and it was pretty bad. Both of those defenses are fairly decent defenses, and the reality is I've said this before, the Renegades need something on offense. If the Renegades could have had any semblance of some type of an offense, they would have won this game. But because they have zero offense, they can't figure anything out on offense. That's why. And I think both Plitt and Sloter neither one of them fit this bill for this offense. And this is not, I don't like this offense. I think it's old. I think it's archaic. It's not up to speed with what needs to be happening in the XFL. I think that it's behind the times. I think that Hayes is a good coach, but I just don't think that he needs to be running an offense. I think he needs to be kind of one of those guys that it's kind of more an overview type of a guy that can kind of help you pick some things out and do that. He's just not very innovative on offense, and it shows. And two, when you don't have the personnel to do that, it really shows as well. I will say, though, that for the type of offense that they're running, bringing in a guy like Luis Perez, who is going to be more of a field general, who's going to recognize things, who's not going to take those chances, who's going to for the most part protect the ball. He usually has his interception issues, but does a better job of distributing the ball than Plitt or Sloter. So I think that he's going to be a really nice addition to that team that I think will make things interesting for them. The thing that's really interesting for me with the Brahmas was just that Ben Kirk, he came in, and I mean, like he was just all the difference in the world in that offense. And the crazy thing is the guy's been with the team for 2 days, and he knows exactly what's going on. He comes in like he's definitely their quarterback, and you can definitely tell if this guy had been with them earlier on in the season. I mean, this is a team that could be sitting at 500 or something like that. I mean, that's just how big of a difference he makes in this offense. It's going to be fun to see them, because right now you're sitting at a 1 game difference between them and the Renegades. And so that's going to be an interesting fight to the finish there in the South. The South is really interesting right now. And then also the last game, I thought that this one was going to be a little bit closer, better than what it was, but the defenders came out and they took it to the Roughnecks. The Roughnecks had a hangover from the loss that they had to Seattle, and a lot of it is it shows just what one person means to a team. And that's what it is that you've got the one guy in Kirkland, and he's out, and things have now changed on that offense to where that offense is not the same anymore. Silvers doesn't look like the unbeatable guy he was the first 4 weeks. The last 2 weeks, he has not looked good. He has not had the composure that he has had in the past, and maybe a lot of it has to do, like I said, with not having the Kirkland as the weapon there. I will say that McDonald came in and played well. His balls do not look good coming out of his hand, but he hit wide receivers. He looked good hitting them. He ran the ball when he needed to, and he really opened up that offense when that offense was started. They were starting to close in that offense because Silvers couldn't do anything with it. So I think that they've got some bright spots and some things that they're going to need to be changing up. The defenders were the defenders. They were, though, I will say, they opened up the passing offense. That one was kind of surprising that we were able to see them pass. They ran the ball all over them. Again, they couldn't stop. Once they got up, they couldn't stop that run, and they just kept running that ball, kept feeding Abram, and they just went, and it was. Speaking on the squirt bottle thing, it's just ridiculous, guys. I mean, come on. Penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty. It was a bit ridiculous, and some of it was like brought on by the umpires, the refs, and it's kind of one of those things to where it's like, if you heard about the hot mic where it picked up Dean Blandino, where he's pretty much, saying that the officiating crew screwed that one up royally. When they caught him on a live mic when it shouldn't have been a live mic, but it shows the transparency, and you could tell he was back and doing just fine with it. But you can tell that they made mistakes, just the way that he answered things, and that some of it come off that you can definitely tell that he didn't agree with the call in the field. But part of it is that he didn't have the angles to really overturn things, and things just went sour for Houston, and it was just like one thing after another. And then you got guys who are getting penalties, flagrants. You got guys thrown out of the game, guys getting pulled out of the game because of 15-yard penalties and stuff like that. And here I am sitting and watching this thing, and they still keep them from scoring. I'm like, that just shows how good that defense is. That Houston defense is just like next man up. I mean, they really looked sharp. When outside of the mistakes, they look like a really, really good. That defense is phenomenal. They just couldn't get that offense rolling, and they got behind. You throw that pick six, and all of a sudden now, you're in a real big hole, and the offense can't help to pull you out of that hole. And that's kind of where they were at. I was kind of really impressed with that. Never seen anything like the whole squirt bottle thing. That was absolutely ridiculous. I really did like Wade Phillips. I've just been really, really impressed with his ability to coach, be a good coach, keep his head cool, comment on things the way that they need to. He's just been super professional about everything and level-headed about it. This team is going to right the ship. They're going to figure things out, and they're 4-2 right now. I think they've got a really nice. They're sitting in a real nice place to move it right on into the playoffs, and they've got time to figure things out before they get into the playoffs and in the championship, where things really, really matter. And so I think that they're still sitting in a decent spot here, especially being in the South. But it was just some bad football there for a little while during that game, and not what you want to see, on your Monday night game. It was on ESPN too. It wasn't on, the big time ESPN, so it didn't get the viewership. But I will say that the games that were on the major networks got some decent viewership. Getting over 1 million viewers these days is nothing to bat your eye at. I mean, it's not anything to balk at. It's a really, it's a pretty decent thing. And I think as they put more and more on primetime, as they get more exposure with that, I think that the ratings will go up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with when the USFL comes, if the USFL keeps the ratings that they had last year, because their ratings last year were better than what the XFL is getting this year. So it'll be interesting to see with that. So I'm going to finish up this, and it's been a long video. I'm going on like 20 some minutes, but I really don't care. I have a lot to talk about, and I want to get it all in here. So you're going to get my power rankings as well in this. This is going to be kind of short and sweet because I've kind of already gone over my thoughts on these teams. But number 8, I got the Guardians. They just can't quit making mistakes, and they just each week it's like you're watching to see how they're going to decide to lose, and they seem to find a different way to lose each week and screw it up. Number 7, you have the Vipers, and they've got the one win against the worst team in the league. We'll see how if Hundley being healthy and that fixes anything. I really don't see it. I would be surprised if they get another win on the season. I think that they're pretty much done there in Vegas, and I'm about done watching them play in Vegas too. I'm glad that I think it's just one more game there at Cashman, I think. So that will be good too, because that whole experience is not fun to watch. At number 6, I have the Renegades. Even though they're 3-3 and the Brahmas are 2-4, I like the quarterbacking situation. I like the offensive situation better with the Brahmas, and them especially getting that win. They're only one game behind the Renegades. That's why I have them at number 5, just because of where the trajectory is. The offense seems to be getting worse and worse for the Renegades, and the Brahmas finally found a way to win. And I think that they've got their leader they need on offense to turn this offense around to where I think that if they can get Balaj healthy, now he might be. I don't know if he's out for the. Or if he's just was out for the week, or if he's going to be out longer. But Patrick did a good job. But having Benkert in there is just, he was phenomenal. Watching him fling the ball, his command, he is really the reason why I have them at number 5, and I have the Renegades down at number 6. At number 4, I have the Roughnecks, and they've had a rough 2 weeks, and they've got to figure out what to do on offense. The thing that I've been watching is that the sequence, they've been getting behind on first down calls. I think a lot of it had to do with the play. It's the play call, but also it's Silver's. It's the decisions that Silver is making that we're putting them behind, to where we'll see what happens with the quarterback position. Wade Phillips wouldn't say anything in his press conference, about that. Just talked about how well McDonald did. I think McDonald's going to definitely get more snaps this week. I don't know if he will start. They might try to give the nod to Silvers, see if Silvers can work some of the stuff out. If not, then they'll go to McDonald earlier than what they did in that Defenders game. At number 3, I've got the Battlehawks. The Battlehawks got back in the win column this week. After that heartbreaking loss, I think it was a good team for them to play in that Vipers team. That Vipers team plays tough, but yet they were able to take it to them. They were able to figure out their issues that they've been having on offense and really get that offense kicking back again, get that offense back being, explosive, fun to watch, again after the those 2 losses to the Defenders. And number 2, I have the Dragons, and I might be biased and I really don't care, but you know what? They're on a 4-game winning streak. This team has figured out how to win games. And they seem to keep growing each week. I know that this week it was against the Guardians, and the Guardians are bad, but the Guardians made mistakes, but a lot of it had to do with Seattle taking it from them, and not necessarily, the Guardians so much giving it to them. They forced the fumble, they're getting the sacks. The special teams with McKnight running all over the place. I mean, it was fun to watch guys play and step up. I think if they can maybe figure out how to convert some of these field goals into touchdowns, they're going to be scary good. And at number 1, I have the 6-0 defenders. I mean, what else can you say? You've got a really, really good defense. You've got an offense that you have Teamu, who stepped up to be that kind of that leader. And, his stats as a throwing quarterback really don't say a whole lot, but he's not really making the mistakes. And he's really leading this offense. And, they're scoring on offense and they're getting up early and then pounding that ball. And teams haven't found a way to stop the run. And if they can't stop the run, this team could quite possibly go 10-0 and win the championship. Somebody's got to figure out how to stop that explosive run game that they got. But till they do, they are the king of the hill, and that's what I have. So to reiterate it, I've got number 8, Guardians, number 7, Vipers, number 6, Renegades, number 5, the Brahmas, the Roughnecks at 4, Battlehawks at 3, Dragons 2, and the Defenders in the first place. So those are mine. As always, I want to know your thoughts down in the comment section, and we'll continue the conversation on down there. All right, listen, guys, I know that you're busy, and I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.